From one disturbing story to another, the Gauteng Health Department recorded more than 23,000 teenage pregnancies between April 2020 and March 2021, with 934 girls between the ages of 10 and 14 giving birth. Now, this was revealed by Gauteng Health MEC Nomathemba Mokgethi in a written response to questions from the DA tabled in the Gauteng legislature. Now, let's discuss this. We're joined by Ntombohlanga, Mqhushulu, Soul City Institute for Justice's Strategic Integration Manager. And we're also joined by the Department of Basic Education spokesperson, Mhlanga. Thank you so much to you both for joining me this afternoon. Ntombohlanga, let me start with you. This is a shocking story, shocking reports. Just the numbers are incredibly high and dare I say again, very shocking. What has your research uncovered in terms of, who is behind, these statistics? Who is impregnating our girls? Are they being raped? Talk to me about what you know.
So I think it's basically, especially if we're talking about the 10 to 14-year-olds, obviously they are being raped. It is statutory rape. It is our research in 2018, the work that we did in school around sexual violence, indicated that it's both between learners but also adults. And I think the worrying thing is that we can't, at this stage, with these cases, we don't have the real information, the extent to which it is the adults. That's the information that we want to be very clear about, the role of adults in this scenario. And also there's really worrying trends around all of this. Worrying trends in the sense that there are measures in place when children present to health facilities. There should be steps that are taken to record, and that law enforcement must take its course. Obviously, from the MEC's report back, this has not happened, and that is the reason that we are. It's not enough for us as South Africa to be shocked. We have to get to the point where we all come together and act.
Elijah, let me bring you in. Talk to me about what the department's reaction was when these numbers were revealed. I mean, some of these incidences we know happen at schools.
Well, good afternoon. Well, the majority of these cases happen in society. I mean, there's hardly any sexual activity that should take place in a school where there are teachers there and other people who work there. What we have seen happen in the sector is an increase in the number of our learners who are falling pregnant, early and unwanted pregnancies that disrupt learning. For basic education, we have come up with comprehensive sexuality education, which we have been using to empower young people so that they have the skills that are required for them to identify potential danger and be able to pick up any patterns or any behavior that could cause problems for them in terms of sexual assault. But we also have been trying to empower them with the skill that they need for them to be able to assist the police to gather evidence that can secure convictions where a rape has taken place. It is shocking that such a high number of teenagers have fallen pregnant in one province. Previously, this number was for the whole country, but we believe that the pandemic would have also played a role in this. In June last year, we came up with a campaign in the basic education sector calling on parents, society to take care of the children during the pandemic, because we knew that there was going to be a whole range of social ills that were going to come up that we needed to deal with as a society.
Now, you are right, Elijah, this is a societal problem. Now, talk to me about the campaigns that you've been introducing, because this is not the first time we are hearing of these incidences, albeit the number extremely high. And we're talking about children that aren't even teenagers, a 10-year-old girl falling pregnant, Talk to me about how well these campaigns have been running at schools and how receptive have parents been, communities been, and what else are you doing in terms of the response, just from the response of these campaigns?
Yeah, it's been difficult because this is a sensitive matter, and I hope that Ntombohlanga will also tell you this, that when you talk to parents about sex and sexuality, and that they need to introduce this to their own children. They find it very difficult to talk about it. It should be a matter that is reinforced in school, but the conversation should start at home, with the parents being the first people to talk about these things. Because if you don't do that, then the children are going to find it from their friends in the streets. And they then start experimenting, and it shouldn't be the case. In school, we play our part, but it should actually be a coordinated effort that involves everyone. And we need to understand it to be a societal matter, in that we don't normalize the pregnancies of 10-year-olds. It should shock us at that point, and we should be going to open these cases. From our part, I mean, we have consulted a whole range of stakeholders, trying to get them to understand why we need comprehensive sexuality education. And people marched on here to the department, and I personally received a memorandum of grievances and complaints from different organizations that felt the department was doing the wrong thing. And these are parents, these are religious organizations and other organizations that felt the department was doing the wrong thing. But after that, you don't hear concrete solutions. You don't hear concrete action that is being taken against perpetrators in the cases where rape has taken place. Instead, we just look at these numbers, we say we are shocked, and nothing happens the next day. The department needs to be assisted to deal with this matter. In fact, health, social development, basic education, NGOs, religious community, traditional leadership, parents, everywhere, everyone must talk about this, so that those that are doing it understand that they are causing so much harm to these children who are not mentally ready, who are not physically ready, who are not psychologically ready, let alone financially ready to bring about another human being that needs to be taken care of.
Ntombohlanga, it's clear that this is a multi-pronged stakeholder approach. It's not a solution that you, as Soul City, alone can take on. I mean, we've just heard now from Elijah of all these stakeholders that can get involved. But what's also concerning is that we have the numbers of these teenage girls who are pregnant, some as young as 10, like I said, but we don't have any arrests, no perpetrators, nothing behind who is doing this. What's your take on this, and how can you hold all these stakeholders accountable?
Yeah. So before I answer your question, I just want to agree with Elijah in terms of the challenges around comprehensive sexuality education. And I think we must all come together and find a strategy of how best do we educate our communities, do we educate parents, that actually teaching children, teaching young people about their sexuality does not promote, them being sexually active. In fact, it actually delays, the onset of sexual activity, because they are very much well informed. But coming to your point, another issue is issues of accountability. I think if you look at our statement, we made it clear that one of the things that we are asking MEC Lesufi when he makes contact with his colleagues in the other departments, that they must tell us how our officials who are not acting on this are going to actually be held accountable. So there has to be accountability measures that are put in place. And also the other thing that maybe we want to raise is that let's not problematize the children. The problem is the perpetrator, because somehow there's a stigma around teenage pregnancy, young people falling pregnant. So we are automatically saying this young person has done something wrong. But in this case, especially with these ages that we're talking about, they don't have the emotional, mental capacity to take decisions around sexual activity. Therefore, we must really point the problem to where it belongs.
I would also agree with the both of you where it speaks to comprehensive sexual education, but I also get the sense that, as you've said, there is no accountability. We're not seeing people being arrested fast enough, and where in a case that you have educators who are perpetrating these crimes, you may see them being fired, but they're still regurgitated within the system. What are you seeing, Elijah, in terms of just that point of accountability? How, as a department, are you handling incidences where educators, or in a very recent case where you had people working within a school being accused of raping a grade 1 pupil? What are the first steps?
Well, in that regard, the department has since revised the conditions of employment for educators. About a month or two ago, in fact, about 4 months ago, we issued those conditions which were revised to say that there are certain categories of offences that if you are found guilty of, you are banned for life from the sector. And those are sexual assault and bringing a firearm to school, those types of offences. We have said those now will result in a ban. So you will never work again in the sector. But also, the police can also, criminal charges on you, and you can be dealt with in terms of the law in that way. So we have since strengthened that environment to make sure that our educators understand that these types of offences or any other offence, in fact, involving learners is not going to be tolerated. So we've gone down to a zero tolerance approach in that regard because we understood that the previous arrangement where people could work for a school and paid by the state and when found guilty, resign, go to another province, get appointed by an SGB, continue to work as though we have not committed a crime or an offence. It was not a proper thing to do. So now we've sought to close those gaps and make sure that the perpetrators, insofar as the employees of the schools are concerned, are dealt with them harshly so, because we really want to do everything to protect our children. And by the way, child protection is everybody's business, all of us. We need to make sure that we play our part, we report, we present evidence, make sure that the perpetrators are dealt with and removed from any environment where they will be dealing with children.
Now, we know that close to, I think, 750,000 reports vary of children who've dropped out of school during this pandemic. How many of those, Elijah, can you comfortably say were as a result of sexual related incidences or even criminality? Is there any way in which you are tracking those numbers?
We do check the numbers, but we don't expect pregnancy to be a reason for dropping out of school from our part as the department, because we have a policy that allows learners to continue with their schooling even when they're pregnant. They get supported. In fact, in many schools, the life orientation teachers are the one who take responsibilities for this. For this, and we've spoken to most of them. They say when they come across information that a learner has fallen pregnant, they have a list of them somewhere in a register. And when they are not in school and they've gone for medical checkups or whatever the reason for the absence might be, they follow up and make sure that they prepare catch-up lessons for them so that they are able to be on the same level with everyone else that is in school. So we have those support measures in school. Some of them, they write final grade 12 exam pregnant. We support them. It's a difficult thing to manage, but we have created that environment which says that no learner should be prevented from accessing education because they're pregnant. Because we understand that they didn't really want to. It is because they are not ready mentally to understand what is happening. Some of them were raped, and some of them found themselves in difficult situations. So there shouldn't be a reason, really, that would stop them from accessing education because of changes that might be taking place in their environment. So that's what we do. In terms of the reasons for dropout, there are very, very many, and this is one of them, but it doesn't contribute a lot to the total number of learners that drop out of school.
And Ntombohlanga, I think we all agree that this is a complex matter and it really does need different sectors in society to handle it. Let's talk about comprehensive sexual education. We touched a little bit about on it. Talk to me about what the best picture for the child looks like.
So I think some of the things that are important to do is also to have programs that look at that target also young boys, because what is happening is that you find that in terms of how society is structured, in terms of how dynamics between men and women, what young boys observe in terms of how women are related to, how women are treated, how they are objectified, we have to start by reversing all of that kind of thinking when they are still young, so to reduce the chances of them actually assuming, some of these toxic traits that are associated with being a man, so that they learn in terms of this is the best way to relate. She is equal to me. She's a woman. She is equal to me. She's not an object. I do not own her. Those are some of the things that we have to actually communicate. But also it's about rights. So it's about the young people, educating them to understand their rights in terms of their bodies, that no one, no matter how superior, how respected that person is in a community, in society. So in terms of that, they must own their bodies and understand the rights that they have and where to go, information, where to go, who do you talk to? This happens to you. People will say you are lying. There's somewhere else that you can go to access information or actually report, incidents like this one.
Ntombohlanga, just a quick one from me as we wrap. What does the future of a girl child look like in South Africa?
I think what is happening is that we continue to fight. Reports such as these, they are disappointing, but they're not really shocking because we hear of these cases from time to time. But when you are confronted with the numbers, it just jolts you to actually remember how big the problem is. So we continue to fight, and I think there's more of a feminist kind of fighting that is going out there to just name the problems. Let's not sugarcoat. Let's not use, language that is very neutral. Let's actually name what our problems are as a society and not actually try and sugarcoat things and make them not what they are. So that's the agenda, to actually go into communities, have these conversations with communities around unequal relations between men and women and how society, unconsciously continues to reinforce this. Young people are observing all of these things that happen in their homes, in schools, everywhere, and they assume, those behaviors and attitudes.
Elijah, I see you nodding. 30 seconds for you as we wrap up. We know that the MEC of Education in Gauteng, Panyaza Lesufi, has received some of these reports and is in consultation with other departments. Quickly, can you tell us about any future plans in light of that?
No, what we need is proper outrage that is backed by action from all relevant stakeholders who will say, when there's a case of a young girl who has fallen pregnant, we are going to open a case for the police to investigate until such time that the perpetrators see that there is action that will be taken against them. It will continue to be like this. And it starts in the streets where we live. When we see a young child, we need to come close, understand what happened, and then take action. Don't oppose, rather support what the authorities are trying to do, because this is our problem, all of us, because these young girls, if they're not able to grow up properly and be allowed to be children and be able to continue with their lives in school and elsewhere, then we don't have a future as a country. So we really need a concerted effort involving everyone, friends, relatives, neighbors, authorities, local government, provincial government, national government, NGOs, community-based organizations. All of us, we really need to take ownership of this matter and say enough is enough.
Ntombohlanga and Elijah, thank you so much for your time this afternoon. I really do appreciate it. A very difficult topic there to talk about. All right, that was Ntombohlanga Mqhushulu, Soul City Institute for Justice's Strategic Integration Manager, as well as Elijah Mhlanga, who is the Basic Education Spokesperson. Thank you so much for your time.